Our House Minority Caucus is offering what we're calling a four-step recovery this session towards stabilizing jobs, improving accountability and transparency in government, lowering the cost of living, and promoting the vitality of our communities. Our leader, House Minority Leader Jean Ward, who hails from the Hawaii Kai Kalama Valley area, who will speak on creating jobs, employment incentives, and lowering the unemployment tax.
Prior to the Great Recession, the mantra was, it's the economy, stupid. And now, after the Great Recession, it's about jobs, stupid. It's about jobs, because right now, as we've just opened the session, 1 year ago today, there were 39,621 people unemployed. When we opened yesterday, there were 41,000 people unemployed. That's 150 people off the rolls per month. We need to stimulate job creation. And we're going to have two proposals that take money from the same source to do it, and it's a wash. The first one is the proposal to take the unemployment benefit fund and actually use that as a tax incentive for small businesses to hire people unemployed. So you hire somebody unemployed, the tax incentive for you is awash with the unemployment benefits that otherwise the state would have to pay. But when you get a job, you get more money than you get when you're unemployed. The second is actually a job saving program using unemployment insurance. Job saving in the sense that there is a steep incline of the unemployment rates that are coming to our small businesses. Unless that is stabilized and frozen in its present position, we will be shedding a number of jobs so they can get away from the steep incline. We're proposing a bill that says no unemployment insurance rate increases. It keeps the uninsurance rate at the affordable rate, and it retains employees. A third exciting job creation program is in renewable energy, and I'm going to turn that over to our renewable energy expert representative, Cynthia Thielen.
Good morning. Your House Republicans believe that green jobs bring green money into our economy, and that it makes good sense. The young people out there want to have meaningful employment. So a couple of ways we are moving the green energy mission forward. The House Republicans are proposing a revised PACE bill, the Property Assessed Clean Energy Bill. It was running into some problems nationally, unfortunately, where we couldn't get the big lenders to agree that the clean energy loan would take priority over the mortgage. So we're going a different way and providing a program, a loan program, and a pool of money that then will be tapped to allow the homeowners to put in photovoltaic or solar on their homes, have that cost put onto their property tax bill, and the stays with the property itself. And then the homeowner will pay it back over time, or the subsequent buyer of that house. And of course the house will be worth more money, which has been proven nationally, because it will be retrofitted with green energy. The other thing, we're going to expand the ethanol tax, not just leaving it with ethanol, but we're going to expand that program to be able to include agricultural products. And we want agriculture to grow in the state. We want the jobs to come back in the state. And we're going to expand it where there is a benefit for people that will go ahead and grow products that can then be turned into clean energy. This will probably happen more on the Big Island, but our hope is that it will happen on all islands, and we will again add to the jobs that will be available for our people in Hawaii. So green for the Republicans is the primary color. Green energy means green money in our green economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. And next we have Representative Aaron Johansson, who is from the Moanalua, Aiea, Halava area, Lower Pearl Ridge, who will speak on accountability, transparency in government finances, with the auditor review of special funds and the automatic repeal of unnecessary non-general funds.
Thank you, Representative Ching. One of the things that we feel is important is it's important for the citizens of Hawaii to have confidence in their government and to have confidence in the effectiveness of their government. And one of the measures that we wanted to introduce was, as Representative Ching, requiring that special funds be added to the legislative auditor's regular audit of the revolving and trust funds. As any legislator can tell you, we certainly have a penchant here at the legislature for creating new funds, all certainly with worthy purposes. I think every intention is good when people create those funds, but they get out of hand. They certainly multiply quite frequently, and when you are tasked with assessing whether or not they're effective, how they're performing, and how they're serving the public, it's this building that often can draw a blank. And so by including special funds in that periodic review, not only will the auditor be assessing it, but we're also mandating that if, after a certain period of days, I believe it's 180 days, if the fund is recommended to be terminated, then it would be repealed. Because we don't want to just have government spinning its wheels, doing assessments that have a good analysis and a good critical eye toward government services just sit on a shelf and have the legislature create new ones. So it's our intent to give some teeth to the legislative auditor's recommendations and to really improve government, put that efficacy back in the services so that the public can not only know that the services are benefiting them, but see exactly how they're performing. And if they're not performing, then let's utilize those critical resources elsewhere.
Next, we have Representative Revere from Waialua, Haleiwa, Pupuke, and Sunset talking about accountability and transparency in government appointments, requiring the governor's public release of judicial and legislative nominees. And this is our next part 2 of the government accountability and transparency.
Thank you, Representative Ching. The transparency is a buzzword that goes round and round, and we like to say that in many cases, but in many practical applications, we are not revealing what we're doing in the government. And there's great movement in that direction. And in continuing at that, our caucus is proposing that governors' nominations and judicial for both any nominations, essentially, that the governor has to have confirmed by the Senate should be revealed to the public for review to see who was in that selection process. The previous governor, Governor Lingle, did make it a habit of announcing who was in the running, and she welcomed input as to the benefits or advantages or negatives, possibly, of people running. And not to make it a political theater, but to make it clear and transparent as to who is available for the position and why the governor is recommending who he does. We believe this should be a practice that is not optional but required. And so we are proposing legislation to make that eventuality, and we think that will help improve transparency in our state government and confidence in the residents of our state. Thank you.
I'm Representative Corinne Ching, and I'm from the Liliha, Aloha Heights, Punui Palama area, which actually has a very high rate of diabetes. But diabetes across the state is extremely high. So this step is to lower the cost of living through prevention, encouraging healthy lifestyles. The fact is your House minority is thoughtful, and thoughtful means looking at every aspect of the budget. Thoughtful is looking at where are we bleeding costs. So it's not just where do we need to cut, we need to ask where can we prevent the bleeding of healthcare costs, and that is diabetes. Hawaii actually is losing $1 billion a year. The state of Hawaii is losing $1 billion a year in healthcare costs and loss of productivity due to diabetes. And diabetes is actually, we are number 2 in the United States, only behind Virginia. 1 in 2 children born after the year 2000 will actually be affected by diabetes. Amputations, blindness. These are all results of diabetes. Actually, in Hawaii, Hawaiians have more than twice the rate of diabetes as Caucasians. In Hawaii, they are 5.7 times more likely then Caucasians to live and to be dying from diabetes. Filipinos living in Hawaii have more than 3 times the death rate than Caucasian, and Japanese, Filipino, Native Hawaiians are some of the top that are suffering from this drastic and very heart-wrenching disease. We know that over 28,000 residents are going undiagnosed. We know that by the time you have your first symptom, you've probably had it for 10 years. It is known as the silent killer. But what has been done? What has been done for this epidemic in the state of Hawaii that is bleeding $1 billion a year, which is largely preventable? Well, we do appreciate some of the things that have been done. The Department of Health, the ADA, the American Diabetes Association does some of a awareness effort. And when we know that the state's diabetes rate exceeds the national average by over 2%, we believe in the House Minority Caucus we can do even more and help ADA and help the Department of Health to raise awareness. So what we are going to do is introduce our task force, a diabetes task force, working with the University of Hawaii graduate students, establishing a pre-diabetes research task force to study prevention strategies, to track policy changes, to report, and to actually implement some action. We would like to see PSAs in Hawaii to understand that this is a major major epidemic of diabetes, which is not only, like I said, bleeding healthcare costs, huge healthcare costs in the state of Hawaii, but also breaking the hearts of so many. We have a vitality project that we're implementing. We are taking some inspiration from the Blue Zone and Thrive, where in another little town in Minnesota, they were able to drastically decrease cardiovascular diabetes. We take this seriously, we realize it's killing our people, and we realize there's a huge opportunity for education in this area. And that would also affect ultimately our budget.
Keeping the people of Hawaii safe. That's one of the missions of the Minority Caucus. For those of you who might have covered the story or heard about it last summer, myself and Representative Pine convened an informational briefing on cybercrime. And during that briefing, we learned that there are approximately 31,000 cyber attacks on the citizens of the state of Hawaii every day. On one day, it was logged over 94,500 attacks. And these attacks come from spyware, malware, millions of attempts to gain access to information that belongs to someone else. And it's a crime that can happen to any of us. In fact, it did happen to one of our members of our caucus just recently. I have submitted some legislation that we hope will pass that will increase the penalties for computer fraud and unauthorized computer access, allowing Hawaii criminal courts in criminal cases to issue a warrant or subpoena for records outside of Hawaii, and also requiring Hawaii internet providers to retain consumer information for 2 years for law enforcement purposes. And the last one is huge because the biggest problem we have is that many of our internet service providers here in Hawaii do not actually have their corporate headquarters here. They're located somewhere else, usually somewhere on the US mainland. And so for us to go back and track and try to find who was logged in at a particular time, what a particular IP address was assigned to a particular individual, and then go after that person is extremely difficult. So we hope this legislation will help law enforcement here in the state of Hawaii be able to pursue some of those that are responsible and more expeditiously bring these people to justice. I look forward to your comments or questions about this or any of that, I think, with the whole caucus. Thank you. You know, it isn't about whose name is on the bill. It's really about the idea. And if it's a good idea, regardless if it's Republican or Democrat, is what's important. And so if a good idea goes forward, regardless of whose name is on it, I don't think any of us in this caucus care about who gets credit for what. But if we can get that idea forward and it's good and it helps protect the people of Hawaii or it improves the quality of life of those that live in Hawaii, I think is very, very important. And that's where I come from. I don't work for the Republican Party. I work for the people of South Maui and the people of the state of Hawaii. And it doesn't matter whether they're Republican or Democrat or whoever. I work for the people. Thank you.
I would really like to compliment all of the members of our Republican caucus for their diligence in committees. And that's where a lot of the things that you don't see out in the public, that's where we really get in there and we fight hard to defeat the bad ideas and to promote good ideas as legislation is amended. So many of our, much of our hard work you won't necessarily see with maybe an underlined name of one of the members, but they are in there in committees making sure to...
For someone who has not spoken yet, because the way she framed the question and the way she drew out Governor Abercrombie is the reason why the pension tax went down. So the role of commending the caucus and committee, Representative Maramoto, is owed a debt of gratitude by the people of Hawaii, because with their questioning, that bill turned around and started going downhill and it fell off the cliff. Sorry, Malia, go ahead.
Oh yeah, sure. I just wanted to clarify on the cybercrime bill. I've been a victim of cybercrime. Hawaii reporters have been attacked many times. And what happens is the FBI goes and looks at the server, which we had at the time in Arizona. 16 countries were attacking us at the same time. And then the question is, then what? So what are you proposing? They can't do anything about it. So what are you proposing different that would make that stop?
Well, what happens is that the information that the law enforcement would have would be obtained more quickly. And it would also provide a long arm so that Hawaii courts could actually start subpoenaing entities that are out of state. It would
so
give
you're saying it would be a local law enforcement, like the police? On a local police?
Exactly. This would be to support local law enforcement. There may be other legislation that may come down with cybercrimes on the federal level, but this is more or less to support local law enforcement in terms of investigating crimes such as identity theft and these kinds of things. So that's where this is. These statutes will help clarify things about identity theft, about crimes that are committed with the use of computers. All of this package, by the way, that's being put together was championed by Chris Van Marter, who is a deputy prosecutor who was instrumental in crafting much of what the language is in this proposed legislation. And there are many different kinds of incarnations you'll see. I personally have submitted one personally that's very all-encompassing, and then you'll see other pieces of cybercrime legislation that may do just specific things, like maybe just the records thing. Maybe it's just improving the sentencing on the actual offenses themselves.
Okay, thanks. And then I just want to clarify, are all of you going to be against taxes this year? Are you going to support any tax increases?
Are we Republicans or are we the
don't know.
minority?
I don't think
For sure.
supporting any tax.
We have no new taxes. We have a 2/3 vote for any tax increases or any tax issues at all.
As a bill.
As a bill that's
That's part
going
of
in, we
the
didn't have time for the
Discussion of that.
development of that. But yes, we have no intention of alcohol or other taxes to come back as they were revisited last year, particularly the pension tax
Okay, so
that I
no
mentioned.
taxes that you support. And what about gambling? Anybody in here supporting gambling, legalized
I
gambling of any kind?
don't believe there's anyone who's going to be doing gambling, even though I know there's a bingo bill that Speaker Say put in yesterday. There's a casino bill that Senator Kim has put in, and we're ready to fight them back as we did United in the past.
May I add to that, Melinda? Thank you. Well, you probably recall some of the speeches that were made on our side of the aisle. Gambling is not healthy for our communities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
There seems to be, though, some momentum that's building on the side of the folks who really want to push gambling. You have the unions that are doing their polls and the Waikiki Improvement Association. What's the strategy for trying to block that?
Did you say Joe Suki was outside pushing gambling? He probably is, because every year for the
he
last
does.
15 or 20 years, the blue suede shoe people came in and they said, look, this is the best fix you can have. It's a quick fix. And legislators sometimes like to solve problems without really long range of consequences. The data is very clear, what the payment is, what the social costs are, what the degradation of society is to pay for some of those quick fixes. It doesn't pan out. I don't think anybody in Hawaii is going to jump on it except for those who do think it's a quick fix, and we're certainly not going to back that.
As a former teacher, I just think that it really goes against a lot of things we've been trying to promote, and a lot of people know that from my speeches. One of the greatest metaphors that I've thought about is it's like the introduction of the mongoose to take care of the rat. Anyone who is familiar with the story of why we don't have a lot of our native birds today is because a short-term idea to do something, to take care of it, which actually more than doubled the problem. And that's how I feel about it, and I think our caucus is very clearly against gambling.
Right, I mean, you probably see the argument lining up with the unfunded liabilities, the health fund.
And even more liabilities. You look at Las Vegas, I mean, the statistics will bear itself out in our floor speeches, I'm sure. But look at Las Vegas, one of the first to fall. I mean, we brought all this out, its effect on small business. And so we recognize that there is a strong push on that side. We recognize there may be the resources. But I think that we believe in the people enough, their intelligence and understanding and rational, as soon as those arguments are brought out in clarity. And we are ready for that. Thank you.
I think that you also have to take a look at California that did forms of legalized gambling. And in that situation, it was exactly for that reason. And so I ask you, how did that work out for California? California has still got the issues that they still have. Because although all the great intentions of the world say, we're going to put this money to this purpose, but then it never really works out that way. So these solutions about using gambling to solve our social problems or ills or lack of funding is just not going to work. And Hawaii is unique, and I spoke about this last year when the gambling bill came up. You know, people come to Hawaii not to gamble. They come here for the people. They come here for our culture. They come here for the aloha spirit. And that's what's so appealing about Hawaii. Anybody can go to a beautiful beach, but people come here because they get a cultural and a sense of experience of the aloha that everyone here exhibits. And I think that if we start going down this path in gambling, we're going to change our culture. It's going to change our culture forever. And I don't know that we can ever get back to where we are now. Thank you.
I just want to clarify one more thing.
I was just going to go follow up with that. The main thing that we need to do is to improve the economy. Then we have the money to be able to cover the programs that we need to cover. One of the best ways to do that, and it's shown out by a report by the Department of Business and Economic Development, is to move ahead with the green energy field, move ahead with the jobs that the green energy will create and bring that money into the economy, along with the jobs for our local people. So it's not an either-or situation. And our caucus stands firmly behind the green jobs, bringing green money into our green economy. So that's how we make the difference, not by legalizing gambling.
I did also want to add, because it's germane to one of the bills that we're introducing, if you look at some of where we found money last session, it was from a defunct photo enforcement revolving fund that, because the van cams were gone, there was a pot of $3 million or so just sitting there. And that's why we think one of our measures is just really common sense in terms of, if the auditor has said either the trust fund, the revolving fund, or the special fund is not serving its purpose and should be collapsed, there's a significant chunk of money there. And if the people and the legislature can't gauge the efficacy of that $1 billion or so sitting in special funds and non-general funds, that's some of the precious resources that can be diverted to critical infrastructure programs, to critical services that may obviate the need for solutions that may have unintended consequences, whether it be gambling or tax increases or other things that have a flip side to the coin. And we're trying to approach it from a strategic, pragmatic perspective. The framework is there because the legislative auditor already does these reviews. It's just actually effectuating the change that's recommended. So that's what our
We're on a roll with gambling, but we got to move on and wrap up. Malia,
Go
go ahead.
One last, I think that you can see that our minority caucus understands and recognizes the interrelatedness of all these issues and the big picture and how this all works out in terms of cost. And so that's where we're, I think, a big picture caucus.
I'm wondering if you have any if you've seen any proposals to extend the rail tax, or and if that's, I know you said you wouldn't support new taxes, but is that something any of you would support?
We have heard rumors to the effect that there may be an extension, but I understand there's another gentleman into the mayor's race that may negate even the asking of that question. So I think it's moot and probably not going to happen, not at this juncture.
Thank you.
Other questions? We welcome
Just to
Channel
throw this
4.
out, I mean, I know we were hearing on the majority side that a lot of lawmakers were getting complaints from their constituents about things like water and sewer and power, you know, things that are more city related. What are you folks hearing in, you know, out there?
I have the former governor in my district who complains to me vehemently about the third-class, third-world roads that we have in Hawaii Kai. People are very concerned about those everyday issues. The city and county hopefully is going to be prudent in their budget making, but those are issues that I think as long as we don't take the TAT tax away to cause property taxes to increase, we'll be in good position. Any others have any comments on that? Okay.
Are you in agreement that you'd like to be able to see the county hold on to their TAG?
Yes, that's, we haven't done a poll on that, but generally speaking, we do not want the counties to just have the state push the funds down the line and then they turn around and take our constituents' money in forms of increased property taxes. Anything else? You have the last word.
Well, thank you so much. I think you can see that we're a caucus that tries to be thoughtful about these measures, and also that we're not afraid to lead in areas. I mean, I don't think you heard about cybercrime before now in terms of a major issue here at the legislature. And it's part of what we provide to the people of Hawaii. Thank you for coming.
Aloha.